This is the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, Dr. Sandra Barnes. Good afternoon, Dr. Barnes.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
So please tell us a little bit about your research.
I'm actually an urban sociologist, and so my research historically has focused on the ways in which poor and near poor Black, white, and Hispanic people have been adaptive and resilient, and providing a counter narrative as compared to some of the cultural poverty and pathological ways in which they're often presented in the media. And from that, I transitioned into research on the Black church. And so I'm really interested in, again, the way the Black church as an organization has helped to empower people, as well as the way in which sometimes churches can routinize attitudes and behavior. And much of my work is informed by my interest in inequality and stratification. So I'm interested in what are those systemic forces that make it difficult for poor and working class people to improve their quality of life and their life chances. And this kind of work came from basically my own personal experiences, or the impetus was my own personal experiences in an urban space interacting with poor, working class, middle class, upper class folks. So I'm really interested in inequality and stratification in terms of how can we dismantle those negative structures that have historically undermined the ability for poor and working class people to do better and to be better.
And what drew you to studying inequality?
Well, basically, I was raised in an urban space, and I saw working class, poor, upper class, middle class people together moving in the same space. When I interacted with poor and working class folks, it was interesting. Their lifestyles and their experiences were not dramatically different from those of middle class and upper class people. The biggest difference between them was the fact that many of them did not have gainful employment. And so for me, I actually saw the very adaptive, resilient, positive experiences that poor and working class people had on a day-to-day basis. But those experiences were rarely in the media. You rarely saw folks just living on a day-to-day basis who just happened to be poor. And so I was interested in showing their experiences and really giving voice to people who by and large are often voiceless.
And what will you be doing in your new role as Assistant Vice Chancellor for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion?
I'm really first excited to be in this particular position. The majority of my role will be, of course, to help to implement the Chancellor Nick Zeppos's new diversity initiative. And so about 75% of my responsibilities will be associated with making sure that those recommendations are actually accomplished. And so we've made some strides, of course, historically, but our goal is to really kind of move forward and to really do it at a much more systemic level. And so that'll be the bulk of my work will be to implement that report. In addition to that, I'll be working, of course, closely with the Vice Chancellor George Hill in terms of special projects and initiatives that he wants to forward. So I'll be quite busy.
What do you believe are the three most pressing issues currently facing Vanderbilt in terms of equity, diversity, and inclusion?
First, it's very difficult to kind of come up with three, but as I was thinking about my experiences so far in the office, as well as my time here on campus, I would say there are a couple that kind of have been most pressing or seem most pressing to me. And the first is to kind of expand and push a little further this notion of global citizenship for our students, really making sure that we are very proactive and very strategic. And so I'm interested in what are the ways in which we can make sure they're exposed to classes, make sure they're exposed to experiences, make sure they're exposed to diverse peers, such that they are really ready and capable of being the kind of global citizens that are necessary in today's time. So that's kind of one of the first issues that comes to my mind. A second one is really addressing and thinking about how can we thoughtfully address the retention issues for diverse faculty and staff. One of the ways that we can ensure in creating a safe space and creating a much more diverse space is to make sure that people, not only diverse people come here, but that they stay here. And so I'd like to really see us think about what are ways that we can identify departments and units that are doing a pretty good job of retaining their faculty and staff of color and their faculty of staff who are different, broadly defined, And how can we take those best practices and implement them elsewhere? And then for those units and departments that seem to be having difficulty keeping folks, keeping diverse people, how can we shore them up? How can we help them to do a better job? And thirdly, I would say really ask ourselves, what are ways in which Vanderbilt can build stronger alliances and networks with the community? Vanderbilt has a history of alliances with the community, but again, if we think about being excellent, part of being excellent is continually knowing that you can do better and you can be better. And so one of the things that I think is pressing is to ask ourselves, how can we be better? How can we do better in terms of establishing ties, meaningful, long-term ties with organizations and businesses and other groups in the community?
And what do you hope the next year brings to Vanderbilt?
Well, I'm, again, excited about participating in implementing the Chancellor's report. For me, I was thinking, this is really very groundbreaking. I mean, we're moving into a season or moving into some uncharted territory. And that's exciting to me. And we know that it's challenging as well because many people are creatures of habit. And so I know I'm a creature of habit. And so to get people to kind of move forward, to get people to kind of think differently and to collaborate to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion is going to be so critical. I'm excited about it, but I also know it's going to require some heavy lifting. It's going to require some collaboration. It's going to require some trust. And I am hoping that that is something that we can make happen, and I'm really excited about being a part of it.
I honestly can't think of anyone better for the job.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, and we can't wait to see what you do.
Thank you.